Hi, I'm Heather from HEA Booktubes, or HEA Booktubes, and today is a collab with some of my best friends here on Booktube, Temecka from Temecka's Library and Izzy from Happy For Now. I am of course wearing my Villains Do It Better shirt, which is merch from Temecka's Library. I get the premium t-shirt. It's very soft, love the fit, I love her designs. I have 3 different shirts. Yeah. Big fan. You should buy it. It's always linked in her description. But today is books we read in one sitting. This is very common for me, not gonna lie. Number 1, I do read a lot of shorter books, and the longer books that I actually stick it out and read, I often am obsessed with them. I will be reading at any opportunity, even if it takes me a few days. But these are ones that, you know, I distinctly remember sitting down, reading it until I was done. I have always been, because I've been a reader my whole life, I've always been the type of kid and teenager. If I was in a book, I was in it. I would be reading it every opportunity. I am for sure the kid that you saw reading, you know, in the car, in the store, in the line, even now. If I'm waiting for my food at Sheetz, I have my Kindle out and I'm reading. Chances are high that I'm on my Kindle rather than my phone. All of that to say, like, sitting and reading a book straight through is a thing that I do. So I'm not exactly sure which books Izzy and Temecka picked, but I just went with some that I thought were less likely to be on their list. First, I'm gonna go for Cate C. and this is true of all of the Cate C. books that I have read. So Run, Posy, Run was my first one. This is a psychopath mafia boss. He's actually not a mafia boss, he's the money man. And his longtime girlfriend, he finds out that she's cheating on him because of revenge porn. He kicks her out and then he wants her back. And they have a cat and mouse game. She needs love even when it's not healthy. He can't love. And it is a fascinating insight into their minds because you get dual POVs and I absolutely love it. That kicked off my Cate C. reading journey, and I actually read it during the Dark Romance Readathon, which I do with Izzy, Temecka, Naima, and Ashley. Then I read Charge, which is her Motorcycle Club series. I am just waiting to get to the last book in this series. I want it so bad, but I'm not letting myself skip, and so I'm on like book 4 now. They're really good. If you like Motorcycle Club romances, you will like this. This one is a single mom who did have her child as a product of rape as a teenager, so obviously big content warning for that. Also, her rich family is, oh, you want to punch them so bad. Like, they are the worst. And then this motorcycle guy who doesn't feel his worth and is very into her, but does not feel like he's ready to give a single mom and her kids specifically everything that he should. Then I have the Tyrant Alpha's Rejected Mate, which is like my current favorite shifter romance. I do not like rejected mates. I do not like this trope. In fact, I feel like Cate C. writes a lot of things that any other author would be like, heck no. But she does like these really intense beginnings of the books and you're just like, oh my god, I'm so stressed out. Nobody's gonna make it out happy. Why are we doing this? And then like towards the end of the book, you get more and more happiness, which is definitely how I like it. It's not that she doesn't have any third act conflicts, but it's not like, oh, we're getting to know each other, oh, we love each other, oh, heartbreak, end of book. That's not how she does it. She, like, the beginning is always pretty stressful, and then like you get things worked out as you go throughout the book, so you're like ending on a much lighter note, I feel like. But this one, she is disabled from a attack basically when she was younger. She's never shifted, which is latent wolf, and she realizes that the alpha is her mate and he rejects her, and then the witch takes her end of the mating bond out and she's fine, and he just like can't leave her alone, and he doesn't know why, because she's not his mate, because he would know if she was his mate, obviously, so that can't be it. He has to grovel, and she's so clever, and I love them. I actually really want to reread this. I already reread Run, Posy, Run. I really want to reread this one. If you like shifters, even if you don't like rejected mates, like I don't, I feel like this is so obsessively good. And I know when it came out on release day, it was her first release after I had started reading her. I picked that puppy up in the morning and I was done in the afternoon. Like, I read it straight through, stopped and fed my kids, you know, but that was it. Oh, it was so good. It was so good. Then you have Stonecut County, which is like a hard-hitting contemporary, which, no, I avoid that at literally all costs, but not this one. And this first book was so incredibly stressful, especially at the beginning. So it's wild. It's really about privilege and realizing that your viewpoint of the world comes from your experience and your privilege, and the people who are nice to you are not necessarily nice to other people and are not necessarily good people at all whatsoever, and having to reconcile that fact to, you know, all of your fond memories and affection that you have for them because they've always treated you well. And that's what happens with our hero. He is a small town cop. He's the son of the rich family on the hill. He's the golden boy. I think he was like the quarterback in high school and stuff. Like, literally everybody loves him. And he's at the bonfire. He's like 22. He's at a bonfire and he sees this hairdresser from out of town and he hooks up with her, but then like she leaves and he doesn't talk to her again. Turns out she was not a hairdresser from out of town. She was actually an underage teenager that he was not familiar with because they weren't the same age group, and she gets pregnant. And when the rumor goes around that he got her pregnant, his dad and the chief of police and all of these people go to her trailer and are like, it would be a shame if you ruined the reputation of this man, because we all know he didn't impregnate you. So you're gonna leave town or your grandfather's gonna lose his job and his place to live. So she does. All of this is completely without his knowledge. He does not know, right? He does not know she's a teenager. He does not know she's pregnant. He does not know that there's a rumor. He doesn't know any of these things. As far as he knows, he hooked up one time with a hairdresser at a bonfire, and that was it. And so she leaves, and then she has her daughter who is autistic, and 6 years later, she's forced to come back, and he sees them alongside the road. He immediately recognizes the little girl as the spitting image of his sister. He also obviously recognizes her, and his world comes crashing down, and he is going to have to prove to her that there's any reason she should let him in their child's life. And it is a wild ride, and if you described it to me, I would not rate it, and I'm telling you, it's amazing. It's my favorite book of 2022. I'm obsessed with it. I feel like I keep talking people out of reading this book, but I really feel like you should read this book. It's so good. I can't even begin to tell you. Also, another book I need to reread. So obviously, I am a Cate C. Wells fangirl. I am obsessed. I think that Run Posy Run or the Tyrant Alpha's Rejected Mates are probably the best two places I would recommend to start with her backlist. I would pick one of those, whichever one is more interesting to you. That's where I would start. And then if you love her writing, like I do, then maybe move on to the other series. But ooh, it's so good. And every time I pick up one of her books, I finish it in the day. I finish it as soon as humanly possible. I am just devouring it and cannot get enough. It is such a good fix. Like, I am obsessed. So, I think I just spent like way too long talking about how much I love Cate C. Wells, but I don't care. Next, I have Green-Eyed Monster by Elsie Winters. The third book in the series just came out, and I need to read it so bad. It's I love her writing. So this one is a novella and is an orc who is like a nerd. He wears glasses and button-up shirts. He's at a university, and he saves this little elf, and they have like a friends to lovers situation where they both really want to be lovers, but they're not really picking up on each other's signals, and it like doesn't last super long. It's not like 6 years later. It's like a couple months or something like that, but they're like trying to get together and are not being very successful at it. And orcs are very naturally possessive and jealous, and he's like trying to keep that tamped down, and she's like, are you interested in me? so good and cute and sweet and funny, and there's some steam too. I picked this up because of the cover, because I loved it so much. And I was just absolutely delighted by this book. And now I read every and anything that she puts out. I love her. I DM her sometimes. I just am like obsessed with her work. And this one is just the one that started it all. It's such a short, manageable bite. If you like this one, you're gonna love her other books too. I am obsessed. I love it. Obviously, this is like an obsessive video, but ask me if I care. I do not. I am a fan, and I am willing to try and bring you all along with me. Next, I have an actual like middle grade book, which I never talk about, but Dealing with Dragons, which is Enchanted Forest #1 by Patricia C. Wrede. This is a book that, one, I loved as a kid, but also I have reread as an adult, and also loved. If you want a happy book, a light-hearted fantasy where the princess saves herself from a dragon, where there's humor and not too high stakes, and is just compulsively readable in a way that like you just need a dose of happiness, a dose of serotonin, this book is perfection. I love this series. I have for like 20 years. I love it, and this first book is absolutely amazing. If you love it, you'll love the whole series. It's so good, and instead of like killing the dragon, she becomes friends with him and stuff. It's great. And like I said, one, perfect if you want your kids to read something where the princess is not the damsel in distress. But two, if you just want just a little bit of happiness, an easy, manageable, bite-sized piece that won't take you forever to read, this is perfection. Next, I have The Culmination of Everything, which is Sugar Valley #1 by Christina C. Jones. I feel like Temecka and Izzy are both gonna have Christina C. Jones on their list, and so I tried to pick a book by her that I don't think they've read. Might avoid overlap. But Christina C. Jones, all of her books, amazing, right? And I read most of them in one sitting. The only ones I haven't are her like darker ones. They usually take me a little bit more, but the rest are pretty much I pick it up, I sit down, I read it to completion, right? This one is a little bit heavier, but in a way that worked for me because I do not like trauma porn. I do not like having to suffer through 300 pages to have a chapter of happiness at the end. Like, I don't like that. This is not that, but it is heavy. It deals with grief, content warnings for loss of a child, loss of a spouse, injury in a fire, death in a fire, death in school shootings. There's a lot. And also just the grief where you shut down and have not felt and have not dealt with it and cannot bring yourself to care about anything in your life, that type of disassociation. So we have a trauma surgeon who needs a break. She goes to this small town, she goes on a hike, she gets injured, and she gets rescued by this guy who is the like park ranger, and he cannot stand tourists who are constantly just ignoring the signs, ignoring all of the things that they're told, and getting themselves in trouble. So he rescues her, but he's not happy about it. And they have a antagonistic hate to love relationship. One, he is an a-hole. He's not generally nice. It's not that he is cruel by any means. He just doesn't like people, and he doesn't pretend like he does. And she hasn't felt anything in years, but he annoys her so much. Oh, she feels mad at him, she feels anger, and that immediately turns to banging it out. So there's hate banging in here. There's definitely this, they still very much hate each other, but they are sleeping with each other. And it's so good because they are giving each other exactly what they need. And I thought it was a really interesting exploration about how the person she used to need and want and desire in a partner no longer would fit with the person that she's become through the grief and trials in her life. And now she needs someone more like him, whereas before she wouldn't have. And he has not gone unscathed. He has his own issues, his own trauma, But oh man, I loved them like going at each other, and it was so sweet and so sad. And so steamy. And of course, I loved the side characters. Christina C. Jones. They do a good job of bringing those side characters to life and making you feel for them and feel for that relationship, and not just, oh, they're just there and to, you know, support this love story. It's like, no, you are someone important in their life, and I understand that relationship and I feel it on the page. I love that about her writing. Next I have Let Me Please You, which is McLean Brothers 4.5 by Alexandria House. I love Alexandria House. I love her McLean Brothers series. Also, all of her series kind of tie in, and so McLean Brothers, 2 or 3 of them, are celebrities, so when you see them in the other books and stuff, like, everybody knows who they are and everything. This is their sister and their bodyguard having a secret relationship, and I love this one. The hero has diabetes and he is large and a teddy bear. She is older. She's a little crazy is how she's described. She's in charge. And she's also like a little bit violent. She gets so mad at him if he lets his blood sugar down and stuff, because he like won't eat on the job, and she just like wants to kill him for it. And it's a novella. It takes place like kind of throughout the other books, so it's up to you if you would want to read it out of order or not. You definitely can, but I love this series. I love these characters, but she was so much fun. Watching them try and sneak around her brothers, even though they're full-grown adults, was also a lot of fun. Alexandria House writes some steamy scenes, and this is a good one. It's a good one. You should read it. Lastly, I'm taking Megan, which is Disciples number 5 by Izzy Sweet and Sean Moriarty. This is a Mafia romance. This is the 5th book in the series, obviously, but it was the first one that I read. And this series, I'm just obsessed with it. I don't really like their other books very much, to be perfectly honest. But this series is just like, I don't know, it's just very cracky. And this 5th book and the 1st book, I would say, are probably my favorites. But this one is stolen from the wedding, which is my favorite, like, all-time favorite trope. And he just got out of prison. He's been in prison for like 10 years. It's the first week that he's out. He and his Mafia side are crashing this wedding of like rival Mafia, and he comes face to face with the bride. She tries to kill him, and he's like, you know what, I'm gonna marry you. So he marries her instead of who she was supposed to marry, and takes her home. There's definitely some like dubious consent. She's actively trying to kill him, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna put a baby in you like this week. So, you know, if you don't want any breeding kink, be aware of that. But I love this obsessive insta love where it's just like, not nobody is gonna stop me from making you mine. Not you, not my boss, not your supposed to be husband, doesn't matter. You're mine. I knew that the instant I locked eyes with you. Kind of the progression of like the heroine starting to feel the same way after their marriage and living together. I don't know. Obviously it's dark romance. Also, like, the torture scenes in the warehouse are pretty graphic, so you can always skip those if you want. If they're in the warehouse, they're gonna do some pretty violent things. But I just love that wedding dress scene, you know, where it's like trying to kill people in your wedding dress and then all of a sudden you're with a whole new person. I love it. It's my favorite thing. So those are some of the books that I've read in one sitting. Let me know if you've read any of them or if you want to read any of them. And if you came from Izzy and Temecka's channel, hi. And if you are not subscribed to them for some reason, please do go watch their videos, subscribe to them. I watch them religiously. I'm very involved with them. We are friends. And yeah, they really helped me when I was first starting my channel, and I appreciate them so much. But on top of that, they've just been really good friends to me. So, you know, if you like me, go show them support. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.